Hello, I'm the Pink Phantom, and this is my podcast. Join me as I delve into the world of games and gaming, and especially old school RPGs. Together, let's voyage into the astral realm and check out my Phantom thoughts. In this episode, we've got calls, including a new caller, Rich from the Cockatrice Nuggets podcast. We also have calls from Daniel from the Bandits Keep podcast and Jason from the Nerds RPG Variety Cast. Links to all their podcasts will be in the show notes. And before we get started, I just have sort of a question I wanted to ask at the beginning to the community. What do you call the person who adjudicates the rules and the adventures at the table in an RPG? Do you prefer the generic term Game Master or GM? Do you prefer the more wargamery referee? Do you like judge or moderator? Or do you prefer a game-specific name? For example, DM or Dungeon Master, obviously that's from D&D, and it's become a real, in many ways, a generic term for the role. That's kind of like Kleenex is to tissue paper, DM is to a game master, or something like storyteller from World of Darkness, keeper from Call of Cthulhu. I looked at a list on RPG.net forum, and they listed some game specifics like guide, lore master, narrator, director, MC, maze controller. So there's a whole variety out there. Do you prefer to use a game-specific appellation when you're playing a specific game, or do you just have one term that you use all the time? Let me know. Contact information is in the show notes, and you will hear it at the end of the show.
Hey, Phantom, just listening to your most recent podcast, and you were looking for complications to your resurrection via wish spell. I thought something cool might be like you said somebody took notice. So maybe like their higher power, their god, watched them be pulled back out of their plane of existence for the afterlife. And so we sent like some sort of agent from their plane to go look them up. It would work really cool if they were good aligned, because then you could send like angels to come and hunt them. So you'd have this really cool, we're fighting the agents of good thing. But hey, if they're chaotic, then you can throw demons and stuff at them. All right, man, have a good one.
Thank you for calling in, Rich. I actually really like that idea. That's a great idea. You will actually get to hear what I ended up doing toward the end of the show when I get into the Tales of the Dragon Slayers part of the podcast. But that is something I might have to work into the world at some point. That's a very interesting idea. Thank you.
Hey, Pink Phantom, Daniel from Bandits Keep calling in. I love your process for the wish. It's like, it's very AD&D. You made it very complex, but it actually makes sense. You know, the only thing I was thinking, man, I would, if I end up with a wish in my solo campaign, I might use something like this. But I wonder, I would just say this, that, and it didn't matter because her intelligence and wisdom were so good. But like those first two checks, like whenever I've had a party use wishes at my table, they always like collaborate on exactly the wish and like literally write it down, and have it like spelled out where they all look at every word and decide. So I don't know. I feel like if I was going to do a wish like that, I probably would have the people with the best scores that were involved do the rolling. That's the only thing I would do different, because even anybody can use a wish ring, right? And there's no attunement in AD&D. So whoever had the best decks you could make that thing at the end or whatever. But I like that you were like thinking of the idea of like possibly using side effects from the artifacts. I love that kind of stuff. So very cool, very entertaining. And, I look forward to listening to more of the Dragon Slayer. And if you do it blog style, that might be really super cool too. I just like the way you're working out the numbers. I find that part to be very fascinating, and something I do a lot as well when I'm figuring out my own stuff, whether it be solo or just something I'm doing in my campaign world. I like to come up with unique and different ways to do things, and you're really doing that a lot here, so I appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you for the call, Daniel. Yeah, I kind of complex things up sometimes, but in this case, I was trying to come up with sort of mechanical means to adjudicate things, since it's a solo role play situation, and just a way to sort of keep yourself honest. Something besides just, well, I guess it does include random dice, but something besides random dice, something where, you can make some interesting choices and like you said, what character you have that, giving it to the character that has a chance to make the most of the opportunity. The way I was kind of interpreting it, the way I kind of layered it into steps and just had one person do it is, to me, this is something that's taking place just in their head. They're getting ready to make the wish, and they're thinking about the wish. They're thinking about the potential problems with making a wish of using this powerful spell, and so it's just a matter of it's all happening in your mind at once. Okay, this is something dangerous. I recognize that. Okay, what exactly do I want to say? How do I want to word it? And then actually wording it. But yeah, that would be something that could be done as well. I think that would work better with if you had multiple players working out. So they're, as you say, working out what the wish exactly should be, and then who should be saying the wish. But just to me, this was all taking place in a few seconds in Katya's head as she was getting ready to wish her friends back to life. But that's a great point. That's something to think about in the future. Absolutely. And I am going to start a blog for this, if nothing else, to help me keep up, because obviously the campaign is ahead of the podcast and it can get way ahead, and I can get involved, like the thing with the wishes. I spent a fair amount of time just working out in my head how that was going to work. And, it was explained. What it was a lengthy explanation. It was explained a lot quicker than it actually came together. So I can be in completely different headspace when I'm doing the podcast. In my headspace, I'm completely somewhere different in the campaign. So I am planning to start a blog to just help organize it, and also to put things like, if I come up with something like the wish procedure, that I can just block that in there, and then if somebody wants to take a look at that and take it and use it or iterate on it or whatever, they can do that, because that's kind of the great thing about the blog community, and where the OSR community really got started, and where a lot of thinking about old school play and new school play is taking place. Some really good stuff out there, including yours. By the way, folks, if you're not reading Daniel's blog, you should. If you're not listening to his podcast, you should. If you're not watching his YouTube channel, you should, because Daniel has a lot of good thoughts about playing RPGs in general, and especially if you're interested in OD&D and and he's been doing some stuff with mass combat with chainmail and using the chainmail system also as RPG. So just a lot of good stuff there. But thank you, Daniel, for the call in, and yeah, thank you.
Hey, Jason here. Interesting thoughts on how to incorporate a wish spell into a solo game. You definitely went the more complicated route, which is fine. I'm not complaining at all. I thought it was very interesting, the thought process there, and I can follow what you're doing. So it's not too complicated by any means. I don't know. Do wish spells have to be that loaded and that scary to use? I guess they do. I don't know. I kind of wonder sometimes if we don't screw players by doing that, by saying, okay, you get a wish, you found this fabulous prize, but, there's no way you're going to use it effectively. And yes, I know if the dice had gone differently, it would have been used totally fine without side effect. But I wonder, not just in the solo game, but in general, are we screwing players with wishes? And I know that's the old thing from the Monkey's Paw to, Gygax's recommendations and DMG about wishes and everything else, that you should screw the players effectively. I'm paraphrasing. But I wonder if that's the right choice. I don't know. I am very interested to see what the side effects are. Of course, I don't remember. Did they recover bodies? Were they totally burned to a crisp and just ashes? If they're ashes, then you've got options on the tables that you can roll on already. Maybe they come back as a centaur or something. I don't know. But yeah, I'm interested to see what the side effects are, and I'm interested to hear your next episode. So keep up the great work.
Thank you, Jason. I agree. We do. I think, I guess culturally within the RPG community, especially the old school side, do kind of go the monkey's paw route when anything like wishes comes along. It may be a situation where you're, trying to keep the wishes from just being the win game button. But sometimes having a win game button is fun, especially it's been a difficult portion of the campaign and something comes up. And wishes are still a rare thing. I mean, unless the dice are just very kind to you. So it's something you don't just want to use just in the moment. You want to use it in an appropriate time. If this was a situation where this was playing with people at a table, I would be a lot more forgiving in how they worded stuff. I might take something if it fit in with the context of the campaign or things they were doing or something that was going on in the world. I might, send it that way, but it wouldn't be something where it would just be, all right, if you don't do it exactly right, I'm going to get you. I'm going to get you. Because you're right, wishes should be rewards. I mean, they should be this powerful magic that allows people to make a difference. And I think the way the spell is worded beyond, just Gygax saying, make sure you get them kind of thing that's mixed in there. Just the way the word, even the regular wish spell that's not the quote unquote limited wish spell, it's still, you can tell by the wording that it's not something where, you're going to reshape the world into a cube or a flat plane or a triangle or pyramid or something, or transport it into another plane of existence or something like that with a wish spell. I mean, you probably could let them do that if you wanted to, but there would be some pretty severe consequences for that just from the wish being executed the way it should be. But it's more of a personal or situational thing. That's the way it reads to me anyway. But yeah, you're right. We do far too often, I think, in the RPG hobby go to the wish is going to be twisted trope, and that is something that could be not fun. But thank you for calling, and I always appreciate when you do call. And if you're not listening to the Nerds RPG Variety Podcast, you should be, because Jason does some great things on there. All right, I was going to add one more thing in here, but the Tales of the Dragon Slayers part of the podcast is pretty lengthy, and I don't want this to be an hour plus situation. So what I was planning for this one, I'll put in the next one or the one after that. It's not anything time sensitive, so it can keep. And I did already ask the question at the beginning of the episode, so that is something to engender a response or just some thought on people's part. So we're going to go on to Tales of the Dragon Slayers. Katya and Sergus set off the next day as part of the party headed to the treasure trove to stash the next group of treasure before heading on into town. Sven and Harl were traveling with them, along with two valets, Jack and John, who would return with the wagon and the extra horses. They set out in the early morning and traveled for several hours, and as they were thinking of finding a place to stop for a midday meal, they started hearing something in the distance. Sir Gus recognized it as the sound of a large group of creatures moving up the trail. The noise was unmistakable. It almost sounded like an army on the march. And the companions looked around and then began looking for a place to take cover. They've traveled this road before, so the question is, can they find a spot large enough for their wagons and party to get into, but sheltered enough to be off the road? Since they've traveled this way many ways before, and they've always had an eye on that kind of security, particularly places when they want to pull over for a meal or for the night, I'm going to say it's about an even chance that there's such a spot available. And maybe they can try to hide. So instead of rolling dice this time, I'm going to pull out something that Jason from the Nerds RPG Variety Cast mentioned a few episodes back, the Game Master's Apprentice deck, which includes, among the many things on it, whether a yes or no answer based on the likely odds of something occurring, whether it's a bad chance, an even chance, or a good chance. And so I'm going to give them an even chance, since they know this road pretty well, especially Sir Gus and Harl, because they've been down it multiple times. So here we go. Here's the draw. And looking at the even result, the answer is yes. They can find a way, find a place to shelter, to hide their wagons and horses from the road. That being said, they know there's still a chance they could be found out with a large number of something coming along the trail. So they are going to set up in an ambush formation just in case. And if they think they've been found out, they'll try to strike first. So here we go. Harl recognized a path to a sequestered grove they had taken shelter in before, and directed the party there. They secured the horses and the wagons as deep into the woods as they could. And then the companions got together to make a plan. Harl and Katja set up positions in cover from which they could pelter any enemy with bow fire. Sven positioned himself behind some bushes close to the edge of the road, but not too close to be discovered easily. And finally, Sir Gus took a position on his horse near the head of the trail. The signal for the others would be if he charged. They didn't have to wait long. The noise kept rising, and from a cloud of dust emerged orcs, who began traipsing past, on their way who knows where. They numbered in the dozens, and as they began traipsing past, some of the orc snouts began lifting in the air, sniffing, almost as if searching for something. A couple of notes that could affect what's about to happen with this encounter. First, will the orcs detect the party? When Katja cast her wishes to resurrect Bernie and Sven, I determined that she stumbled or misspoke on each wish. With Bernie, it was a minor stumble. I rolled on the list of minor malevolent effects for artifacts in the AD&D DMG, and it came up to -1 saving throw versus spells. I changed that a little to mean spell saving throws versus fear effects and others that might make him run away or wander off, something like confusion maybe. My interpretation is that at the time of his death, he was afraid due to the dragon's fearful presence, so he's going to come back more susceptible to that. The other curse to Sven, it was a more severe side effect, and that's the one that's going to apply here. Initially, I rolled on a list of the major malevolent effects for artifacts, but a lot of those were directly tied to the uses of the artifact. So then I turned to a list of cursed items from the Dungeon Master's Guide, and the roll fell on the Phylactery of Monstrous Attention. Now, this item is specifically for clerics, and it attracts supernatural creatures of the opposed alignment to the cleric, depending on the level of cleric, up to and including, essentially the enemy of their god. I modified that to giving all creatures a better chance to detect Sven. And the further from his alignment they are, the better a chance they'll have. So Sven is neutral good, and the orcs are lawful evil. So they've got a good shot of sensing him. It's going to be I worked up a table, and I may explain it sometime if people are interested, but it's going to be adding 4 on a D6, adding 4 on a d6, trying to find, if they're rolling a d6 to find, if it ends up being something percentage based, something like, an enemy thief or something, then that can be adopted to percentages or d20 or what have you. But just in my mind right now, it's adding 4 on a d6. So if they had a 1 on 6 chance, they would have a 5 in 6 chance. The other mechanical change I want to cover is charging. Before the encounter with the doors played out, I thought about what would happen if Sir Gus charged at a mass of creatures, a large group, particularly if they were some kind of an army in formation. By the rules, he'd have a chance to hit the first creature up front, and then his momentum was essentially stopped. Whether he killed him or killed him by a bunch or what have you, his charge would end right there. It'd be almost like hitting a brick wall. So before seeing how the dwarves reacted, I decided that when charging, if the initial target of his is killed, if he does enough damage to kill the first target outright, and depending on and he can generate a lot of damage in one blow, especially if he ends up going against some kind of creatures that are of large size, where a heavy lance does 3 to 18 points of damage. But I ruled that if he kills that initial target, the damage will carry over to the next creature behind him. And if the next opponent has the same or worse armor class, he won't even need a new hit roll. And that rule is going to kick in here if conflict ensues with the orcs. Setting up the situation, the orcs did detect Sven. I thought I was recording at the time I made that roll, but I wasn't. But they rolled a 2, and they had a 4 in 6 chance. So they did detect Sven, so there is going to be a fight. This is a group of 60 orcs. They have a mixture of weapons: spears, halberds, bastard swords, battle axes, crossbows, and longbows. So a mixed group, and the leaders are mixed in with the column as they march. And I think that's about it for the setup. There'll be a couple more things as far as pre-fight rolls, and then we'll be getting right into the combat. So before combat kicks off, I need to find out what kind of cover or concealment Katya and Harl found to stand behind while they're targeting from a distance. I've rigged up a little chart with the probabilities, and Harl's going to be back a little further. Katya's going to be a little closer so that she can catch them in her point blank range and her psionics range. So I'll be rolling 2d6. Higher is better, and I'll be subtracting 1 from Katya's roll. So Harl has found, with an 11, 75% cover. That will make his armor class better by 7. So now Katya, we're going to be subtracting 1 from this roll. She gets a 6, so a 5 will get her 50% concealment, which will improve her armor class by 2. So now we need to figure out how far along the column did the orcs detect Sven. So except for the first rank of orcs who are being led by the leader and are being pushed to move on up the road, so to speak, I'm going to roll until we get 4 or less on the d6 for where they start turning and where the attack is launched by the party. So here's for the second rank. We rolled a 3. So on the second rank, that's when they detected Sven. So now the last thing I need to do is figure out, will the party surprise the orcs with the suddenness of their attack? And because the orcs have been out in the sun, because they've been marching for a long time, because they're pushing on, they're kind of toward the end of their day, I'm giving that a 3 in 6 chance for the party to surprise the orcs. And with a 2, the orcs are surprised. So now we're going to roll for the party to see how many segments of surprise do they get, however much above 2 they get. And with a 5, they will get 3 segments of surprise. So that means they will essentially get 3 rounds of combat in before initiative is rolled and the orcs get an opportunity to respond. Oh, I also need to determine how far down the column will Katya and Harl be placed that they found their cover. So I'm going to roll a d8 and we'll just go down that many ranks from where Sven is. And they have gone four ranks down from Sven. And Katya will be 1 further rank down from where Harl is. And now, as the last teaser, the last thing I need to do before we get into actual combat is I need to figure out if Sir Gus recognizes who the leader is on that front rank, because being Cavalier class as a paladin, he will be honor bound to attack him first. So I'm going to do an intelligence roll for Sir Gus, and he has an intelligence of 9, and he rolls a 8. So he will be able to charge the leader first. So now we can finally get into actual combat.
Error, examine.
Hey everyone, Future Phantom here. A couple of quick corrections in what you're about to hear in the battle. The orc group, this group of orcs has 1 main leader and 3 sub leaders. I keep referring to all the sub leaders as leaders. I switch back and forth between sub leader and leader. I keep correcting myself and then forgetting again. But the main leader is up front. He gets attacked very at the very beginning of the combat. And the other error I made was I was applying the protection from evil that Sir Gus has naturally as a paladin as a negative to the hit rolls. Further reading has indicated that that's actually supposed to be applied to improving the armor class of the people in that aura. In this case, that mistake did not change any outcomes. Also, I figure at the beginning of this what kind of cover and concealment Harl and Katya have since they're engaging from the orcs from a distance, and I completely forget about that once the combat starts. But again, it didn't affect any results. Any hits would have been hits, any misses would have been misses. So those are the mistakes I made. Keep that in mind if you care about that from a mechanical perspective. And now we're going to get on with the battle. So in the first surprise segment, Sir Gus charging the orc leader, main leader. All the orcs have an armor class of 6. Sir Gus needs a 14 to hit that armor class. He's +3 for strength, +2 for charging, +1 for mounted on a horse and attacking an unmounted opponent, and +1 for his lance being his weapon of choice, for a total of +7. So he needs to roll a 7 or better. And with a 10, he hits. Now he will roll 4 damage. So 3 to 9, and then +7 on damage. And he rolls a total of 10 damage. The orc leader has 8, so the orc leader has died. And this will allow Sir Gus to plow into the next orc using that system I talked about earlier. The next 2 orcs in line, as it turns out, the halberdiers, they rolled poorly for hit points. They both only have 1 hit point. So with the remaining 2 points of damage that Gus has to dish out, they are also killed. So he takes out 3 orcs with that charge, including their leader, in just their first surprise segment. Now Sven comes in. Being on that second rank, he's on the halberdiers as well. He's coming in with his trident. He has double specialization. He also needs a 14 to hit. He will be at a +5 to hit overall, including his strength bonus. And he scores a 20. So that's easily a hit. And so he takes out that orc. There's no need to even roll for damage because he's... And this, of course, raises a question. Since he is also charging into battle, should he be allowed the same privilege, even though he's not on a horse, of carrying through? You know what? Let's leave it up to dice. If you're on foot, you get to do it. We'll roll a d6. On a 1 to 3, you can. On a 4 to 6, you can't. And on a 2, he can. So he carries on through, takes out another halberdier with only 1 point, just from his strength die damage, and he ends up adjacent to Sir Gus and his horse. So his charge will stop there, but now he is within the aura of Sir Gus, protection from evil, so any of the orcs attacking Sven will also have -2 to the attack as long as they are together like this. Katya cuts loose with a psionic blast, and she catches almost 3 full lines in with her psionic blast. And this is going to be a bunch of saving throws. So let's go ahead. We have these first 5 will be saving on a 16 or better. So fail, 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 pass, pass. We had 2 pass. And the rest of these, the next 12, will be saving on 15s. Pass, fail, pass. Oh, that first one was a leader. He would have passed on an even worse roll, but he got it anyway. Next line. Fail, fail, pass. Fail, fail, fail. Pass, fail, pass. The results of the sonic blast can be death, very low probability, 1 out of 100. Coma, 2 to 15. Sleep, 16 to 90. In both those situations, they cannot be awakened. The coma is for 2 to 12 days. The sleep is for 5 to 20 turns. Either way, they'll be out of the battle. Stun, 91 to 99 for 2 to 8 turns, or with a 100 confused, which lasts for 1 to 4 turns. And could have a variety of results. All right, so first up is an 86. That's asleep. A 55. That's asleep. $67, that's asleep. And 82, that's asleep. And 86, that's asleep. A 59, that's asleep. 50, that's asleep. 34, that's asleep. 72, that's asleep. And finally, 91, that's a stun. All right, so that's a whole bunch of orcs that are either stunned or asleep. So Katya's Sonic Blast caught 17 orcs. 11 of them failed their saves. 10 of those fell down asleep, and one of them is stunned. So for this segment, that just leaves Harl. He's going to get a couple shots off with his longbow. He sees that one of the crossbowmen stayed upright, so he's going to target him. Harl will be hitting on a 15. He has +2 because of his skill, because of his dexterity skill. And with a 16, he hits. 1d6. And he does a total of 1 point of damage. So second shot, same orc. And with a 3, he misses. So that's the end of the first segment. So in the second surprise segment, Sir Gus, his charge has brought him nose to nose with one of the sub-leaders. So he will attack him. He's going to be at +5 on this attack, and he needs a 14 or better. And with a roll of a 2, he misses. But now his horse gets a chance to get in on the action since he's not hard charging. And he will need just a 10. And he gets 3 attacks. A 3, an 8, and another 8. So the horse whiffs completely. So now Sven will turn and attack one of the swordsmen that he's behind. So he will be at +5 with his normal bonuses and +2 because he's behind him. And with a 13, with all those pluses, he hits. So with his trident, he will do 2 to 7 points of damage, plus his bonus from his double proficiency, and his strength will add 4 to that total. So 6 plus 4, that's another dead orc. So now Katya, being encouraged by her last sonic blast, is going to cut loose with another one. And this round is going to catch 14 orcs in it. And now most of the back of the orc column is laying on the ground asleep. The leaders in the back are still up, and 1 crossbowman and 2 longbowmen are still up, along with a handful of infantry. So now we go to Harl. He's going to get off a couple more shots. He's going to target that crossbowman again. And he misses with a 9. And he misses with an 8. Harl is not having a good day. So now we go to surprise segment 3. This will be the last one. Sir Gus is going to confront this orc leader again. He is +5. He needs a 14 or better. And with a 9, he just gets it. So now he will roll his damage. He will add 7 to this. And he gets 6 plus 7. The orc leader only has 8 hit points, so he's out. Sven attacks a halberd wielder next to Sir Gus. He gets a 10, plus his 5 is 15. That's enough to hit. So he will do 2d6. Well, the halberds only have 1 hit point, so it doesn't matter what he rolls. That one is dead. That's another orc taken out. Katya, having done all the psionic blasts she can do versus non-psionics, she is going to fire off her bow. She is at point blank range against the crossbowman. She's going to be at +2 to hit. And she needs a 14. And she gets a 12. So exactly what she needed. Roll 1d6, and she is at a +3 at what's double damage actually. So 5 doubled is 10, and that crossbowman only had 7 hit points, so he is dead. So with her second shot, she's going to target the lone leader standing in the middle of a bunch of sleeping orcs. And with an 8, she misses. Now Harl is going to target that same leader. He rolls a 3, and he rolls a 19. Harl gets a hit. 1d6, and he scores 1 point again. Harl's a little off, apparently. And that ends the surprise segments. So now it's time to roll initiative. The party, a 3. The orcs, a 6. The orcs get to go first. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to roll morale for the front part of this orc column. They've seen their overall leader and one of their sub-leaders killed, and a lot of their fellow orcs. The back half, they've seen a lot of people fall asleep and only 1 killed, and they do have 2 sub-leaders back there. So I'm not going to roll morale for them. But the front sections, I'm basically going to roll for each of the first 3 rows. So the first row, they need to roll under 50, but the roll is going to add 30 for the dead leader and 10 more for one of their own in that front rank being killed. So, and with a 51, they're going to fail morale. The second row, they are going to be at +50, so they cannot pass this morale. So they're gone. The third row, they are going to be at, they also can't pass because they've got more than 50% of mitigating factors, so they can't possibly roll under 50. The fourth row, if they roll 10% or less, they can pass the morale check. And with a 61, they don't. So now we see what we have to roll. How exactly does their fail go? On a 1 to 15%, they fall back fighting. On a 16 to 30%, they retreat. On 31 to 50%, they flee. And on 51+%, they surrender. And I'm just going to have one big roll for the whole group. And on a 16, they retreat. So they are getting the heck out of Dodge. But the party members in their midst will be able to get a couple whacks in before they take off. So the rest of the group is quite healthy. Well, they're quite morale-wise anyway. So they are going to move to attack. Well, actually, this group probably just, as they retreat, this other group will be attacking, so they will actually be just kind of clearing out of the way as they charge in, as the others take off. The bad news for the party is most of these remaining orcs are spearmen, and so they can hit from 2 ranks deep. So they're just swarming all over now Sir Gus and Sven, while the 2 remaining bowmen are engaging in a long-range duel with Katya and Harl. So let's do the bows first. So they both have long bows. Both of these guys have long bows. They will be +2 to hit Katya and +1 to hit Harl. And we're going to shoot 1 at each. So for Katya, they need a 14, and they are +2 because of their weapon. I'm sorry, they need a 13. Well, it doesn't matter because they rolled a 7. So the other one needs a 14 to hit Harl, and he's going to be at +1. And he rolls an 8, so he misses. Now there are a total of 3 axemen axemen. 3 axemen and 3 spearmen engaging Sven. The battle axe, they are at, he has his back to Sir Gus, so most of his back is covered. He does have one flank where he won't be able to use his shield. That will, one axe and one spear will be able to hit from that side. The other 4 are hitting at him from his stronger side. So the battle axes hitting on his shield side will be at -2. They're at -2 because of weapon. They're at -2 because of protection from evil. And they normally need a 17 to hit from that side. So they will not be able to hit him at all. The spears, they are at -1 and for spears, and -2 for protection from evil. So they can hit on a 20. And with a 9 and a 16, they miss. From his unshielded side, the axe-welder can attack, and it negates his dexterity bonus as well. So they only need a 15 to hit. They are at -1, not having to deal with the shield. So a 16 or better. And the roll of 2. The spear is going to need -1. Well, there's at 0 for spear, -2 for protection from evil. They need to roll 15, so they need to roll a 17. And they roll a 16. Now, Sir Gus. A lot of the action is taking place on his shield side or in front of him. He has one of the items from the Dragon's Hoard was a shield +4. So his armor class up front and on his shielded flank is -5. And most of the weapons are at some kind of negative to hit him as well. So they, plus protection of evil -2, they have 0 chance to hit him. However, well, actually, now that I look at it, with the negative from protection from evil, and with all their negatives from their weapons versus armor, they can't hit him at all. They're just pinging away at him ineffectually. So now the party's going to get a hit. Their hits in. So first we'll do Katja. You know what? I only gave the orc bowmen 1 shot each. They need to take an additional shot. So the one shooting at Katja, he needs a 13 or better. And he's at +1 on that. And he hits a 15. So he does get a hit. And that will be 4 points of damage on Katja. And the other one gets another shot in at Harl. He will need a 14, and he's at +1. And he rolls a 1. So that's a miss. All right, now the party gets to go. So Katja will take a shot back at the one that shot at her. She's going to need a 14. She's at +2 to hit. She misses. And with her second shot, she also misses. She rolled a 2 both times. Harl takes 2 shots with his. He's at +2. He needs a 15. He rolls a 5, and he rolls a 10. Now we go to Sven. He is at +5 to hit. He's going to take a whack at one of the axe guys in front of him. And with a 14, that's exactly what he needed to hit. No bonus necessary. His strength bonus in damage is higher than that orc's hit points, so that orc goes down. And since he's actually overdue for a second attack, because he gets 3 attacks every 2 rounds, and this will be his actually 4th round with those surprise segments built in. So he gets to roll again. He's going to take a shot at the spearman over on his non-shielded side, and with a 4, he misses. Now Sir Gus will attack the leader that he attacked before. He is at a +5, and he rolls a 20. So now he will add, well, his 7 in damage bonuses is enough to take out that leader. So now Sir Gus's horse will get a chance. He will attack another leader that's right beside the first leader with a 6. Ooh, and a 16. That's a hit. So one of the hoof attacks hits, and then a 16 on the bite attack. So his bite attack, well, his hoof attack does 1d8. That's a 5. And he bites for an additional point of damage, and that wounds the leader, but he's still in the fight. And that's the end of round 1. Round 2, initiative. The party, they roll a 5. The orcs, they roll a 4. Party gets to go first. This time I'm going to try to remember my order of operations better. I should do 1 round of bows, since they can get 2 shots each, then do the melee, then the next round of bows will be at the end of the round. So first, Katya is going to take a shot at the orc that wounded her. She needs a 14. She has +2 to hit. And with an 11, she just misses. Now Harl will take a shot. With a 19, he hits. And that bowman only had 1 hit point, so he is gone. Now we'll move on to Sven. Sven will take another shot at that spearman he missed last time. He's at a +5. He needs a 14. He rolls a 10, so with his bonus, that's enough to hit. And his +4 damage is enough to take out the spearman. Now Sir Gus will take another shot at the remaining leader. He needs a 14 to hit. He has a +5. He rolls an 11, and with his strength bonus, that's enough to take out that leader. And then finally, the horse will get another round. This time he's going to kick back at a spearman that's behind him. He hits for 5 points of damage. That's enough to take out that spearman. He attacks another axeman beside him with a 15. That's a hit. He rolls 1 point of damage there. And then finally he bites at the spearman off to his side. With a 6, he misses. And at this point, having lost the remaining 2 leaders and 4 more guys, that's more than enough of a morale check to keep them from making a morale check, succeeding on a morale check. So let's see how they choose to fail morale. And with a 3, they will fall back fighting. So they're going to take shots and run. These guys cannot hit Sir Gus, so there's no point in rolling those. They can take some shots at most of the remaining orcs that are near near Sven are on his strong side. They can't hit him from there, but there is one axeman who can potentially hit him with a 20 on his weak side. And he rolls a 13. And then finally, that bowman will take 1 more shot at Katya before he tries to take off. With an 8, he misses. Katya and Harl will get shots in, and then the orcs will just run off. Katya with a 12 plus her 2, that takes out that bowman. And Harl, is he? Yeah, he's within range of one of those back row spearmen, so he'll take a shot at him. He rolls a 13 with his 2 bonus. That just hits him. and he will do 5 points of damage. That takes that spearman down. And the remaining orcs run off. Wow. That's not the way I expected it to go. And so the party will clean up the sleeping and comatose spearmen and stunned orcs. And that will be the end of that. Wow. The only person that took any damage was Katya. And she and Sir Gus will be able to handle those wounds. The final tally here is all the orc leaders and sub-leaders were killed. All the bowmen are going to end up being killed. And then an additional 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 infantry got killed. And everybody else ran off. So, wow. That's pretty amazing. Amazing what some surprise rounds can do for you. And that's it for this episode of Phantom Thoughts. I love feedback. If you would like to comment, there's lots of different ways for you to do it. First, you can go to podcasters.spotify.com/pod/show/Phantom Thoughts and leave a voice message. Or you can send an email or attach a voice message to an email and send it to phantomthoughtspodcast@gmail.com. You can call into my Google Voice line at 864-209-1441. You can send me a message on SpeakPipe at www.speakpipe.com/phantomthoughts. You can also contact me on Discord. I am the Pink Phantom, number 9782. So please let me hear from you. Thank you for listening, and have a good day. Links to contact information and topics covered in this podcast can be found in the show notes. The opening music for this episode was Strength of the Titans, and the closing music is Late Night Radio, both by Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com, licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0 license. Goodbye.